This free agency for fantasy football in particular this free agency has been probably the most wild one that we've ever seen in the social media era. We have running backs. We have top-tier running backs flying fucking everywhere. We have quarterbacks on the move. People are asking the question, not me. I wouldn't ask this, but there are high-powered people in high places asking why SBLIX through ATL is not trending on Twitter. Kirk lands there. Darnell Moonstein lands there. Life is good as an Atlanta Falcons fan. It's what we tell ourselves. We are live to speak about everything happening in the free agency space. We're actually live on two different channels right now. I don't know where you're joining me from. I don't know where anybody is. There's a lot of numbers in chat popping up on my screen right now, so I'm going to try to stay focused. We are locked in. We're dialed in, and more importantly, we are tucked in. Okay, so we are going to approach this from a dynasty, a redraft, every perspective that you could find your way into looking at these situations from. We had Derrick Henry just go to Baltimore. I'll ask one thing of somebody out there. I'll yap about the next hour and a half free agency. If someone could just be a fucking legend, an icon, and timestamp as I'm going, be like, all right, Nick started yapping about Kirk Cousins at the 6-minute mark. That would be fantastic. And then you could send it to me on Twitter afterwards so then I could put it in the description at the end. That'd be great. So Kirk Cousins from 6 minutes to 46 minutes. That's how this is going to go. You don't have to wait for me to stop because I'm already about to tell you what's going on here. So we, the Atlanta Falcons, I am a franchise owner. I own stock. I own shares. I own your mother. We signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million deal. $100 million guaranteed. Now, on paper, this looks fucking great. On paper, it's cool. It's like, hey, we're a pretty good team. We need a quarterback. Let's go out and sign one. Money's fake in the NFL, right? Like, no one really cares about the money. No one is a fan. Everyone as a fan pretends they care about the money, but very rarely does the money actually play into the way that a team operates. Every once in a while, you have to let go of good players, right? We just saw it with Miami and Christian Wilkins. We've seen it before. But we even have, like, Philadelphia. They ate the largest cap hit in the history of cap hits with Carson Wentz when they got rid of him. Remember that? That was like the talking point for 6 days straight on SportsCenter. Oh, my God. They got to eat a $35 million contract. You know what Philly did? They went to like 6 fucking NFC championships in a row with Jalen Hurts. Okay? So money's kind of fake. We're in a good position right now because we don't have any like real quarterbacks on our roster. All of our young players, the Bijans, the Pitts, the Drake Londons, are all on rookie contracts as well. So we'll start with Kirk Cousins, all right? We'll start with Kirk Cousins. He's 35, 36 years old. He signs a 4-year deal. Obviously, we're in like a win now window. And what I love about this is it allows us to go after a pass rusher at the 8 spot for Atlanta, so we can be a more well-rounded team. And now we are in a position to win the division, right? We got the Falcons. We've got the Bucks. The Saints are an atrocity. They let go of Jameis, who's their best chance of winning. And we have the Panthers. Sorry, gut. So we got Kirk coming into place. And obviously the most exciting thing as it relates to fantasy football is we have an offense that will move the ball. Now, we have Drake London, who is supposed to play that Justin Jefferson role. We have Kyle Pitts, who is supposed to play that TJ Hawkinson role. So massive, massive boost to both of those guys, of course, because now we have a catchable target rate that's going to go north of 47%, okay? And both of those dudes are, I guess we could still argue whether or not we're trying to figure out if Kyle Pitts is actually talented. But if you're a dynasty owner, I'm in a league where I have Pitts, I got Drake London, I got Saquon. So this was a phenomenal little free agency period over the last 24, 36 hours for that team. It couldn't have gotten worse than Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke last year, okay? So Kirk comes in and he stabilizes the offense. They wanted a pocket quarterback. I think that's why they didn't go after Justin Fields. I think that's why we decided not to spend a huge haul and move up in draft picks. So realistically, the way that these accountants are moving around and slicing and dicing in the NFL, it's like the money is worth so much less than draft picks. Okay, so Kirk, you got to love the signing again on paper, but he's coming off the Achilles tear. How healthy is he going to be? I will say the one thing that is working for him is he's not a mobile quarterback whatsoever, right? It's not like Justin Fields is coming off the Achilles tear where we are like, okay, he ain't going to be as explosive. He's not going to be as athletic. Like Kirk probably averages about 5 to 6 steps per game. If you put like an Oura ring on, they might think he was like taking a nap during a game. They might be like, if anyone has your Oura ring, they like ask you during certain time periods, like once you update it, they're like, did you take a nap from 5:40 to 6:15? They might ask Kirk that during an NFL game. So the lack of mobility is probably fine, okay? The age scares me. Yeah, listen, on paper, it sounds good. It looks good. But in reality, I think there are red flags here for sure. We put ourselves in a position where we were just fucking so over-leveraged. We had nothing to put at the quarterback position, and we came out and we were immediately like, we're going to address it this offseason. So we had 3 choices. We were either going to overpay the fuck out of Kirk Cousins' contract, which we did. We could have went and got Justin Fields for like a second-round pick, which we're clearly seeing is not what he's worth in the market, or we could have traded our next 3 drafts for a rookie in this class, which honestly I wouldn't have been like too upset because, again, we're kind of in a window right now where we've got all our weapons on rookie contracts. We would have put the quarterback into that situation and then like seeing what we could do there. But Kirk's a proven commodity. I feel good about it. Drake now feels like he is locked in as a top 12 to 15 Dynasty asset. You got to remember, he came in the league really, really young too. So I think he's 22 right now. So you're talking about a guy who has multiple years of experience already. And he's just now getting the quarterback. So love Drake. This was a huge win for him. Kyle Pitts is still fucking 18 years old, so huge win for him. Bijan, I mean, sure, the offense will move more smoothly. Maybe he gets more goal line opportunities. We have a different head coach and OC in there, so maybe he gets more, level-headed play than getting Tyler Algier there at all times, okay? So Kirk, we're excited. We're going to work. I don't know how we're going to work our way through this. We got a lot of names to cover. We got a lot of things to talk about. We got a lot of people in here. So again, I want to tell you, we're live on 2 channels. We're live on the main BDGE fantasy channel and then the Dynasty channel. Okay, so we're live on both of them, I believe. So sorry, I'm just looking at the comments right now for the first time. I'm not ducking you, Matt. You are the least question answering worthy. Fucking look at that dumbass face. What was I even saying? Oh, okay. So if you're just watching this on the fantasy channel, you're just catching up this offseason, we launched the Dynasty channel, and almost all of our fantasy stuff from now until like June or July is going up on the Dynasty specific channel. So make sure you're subscribed over there. The link will be the first thing down there in the description. All right, let's get Elon Musk off the screen. He's just talking that nonsense about the Super Bowl being through Atlanta, nonsense. Baker Mayfield re-signs with Tampa Bay, 3 years, $100 million. Love that. Next interesting quarterback signing was Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh. They're basically paying him nothing. Denver still has to pay like $38 million on his contract. So this was a super low-risk move for them. I will say that now this is like one of those risks that involves the risk of like the unseen. It's like the risk of not trying to reach a certain potential. Like the Steelers have a lot of pieces in place where they could be a great team. Like they fucking made the playoffs last year. I think they made the playoffs last year, didn't they? Yeah, they did. I think they got knocked first round. Yeah, they played the Bills. They made the playoffs last year with a combo of Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett at quarterback. So that tells me that they're a good enough team that they can make a real run if they had a real quarterback there. Okay? And Russ could be that guy. I don't know. It kind of feels like more of a stabilizer for this team where Mike Tomlin's like, we need someone to come in and like actually lead the team and have people that believe in the guy who is running our team. Russ has kind of been cooked, man. Like Russ, the problem with a dude like Russ and people betting on a bounce back from Russ is like, if someone shows you who they are, you usually shouldn't let them show you again. That's a life lesson to live by, okay? Do not let someone show you who they are twice. Okay? They showed you who they are the first time. If you buy into it again, that's a you problem. Russ has now done this for about 3 straight years. He had his bad year in Seattle the final year, okay? And a lot of it you could have attributed to the injury. He had an arm injury. He got back. He wasn't throwing the balls accurately. And we're saying, okay, is the decline of Russ here? He gets moved to Denver. Stats ended up being okay, but he was not a real winning quarterback there. I don't think he really elevated the team in much sense. Now he's going over to Pittsburgh. You got 3 teams in basically as many years. He's a red flag, okay? So he's not going to be the long-term solution for them, obviously. But I think it's more of a stabilizing piece. So do I like it for Deontay? Yes. Do I like it for Pickens? Yes. Do I like it for the offense in general? Yeah. But this is clearly a team now led by the GOAT, Arthur Smith, as the OC. They're going to rely heavily on their running backs, okay? Probably not that too dissimilar from what they were doing in Denver last year, where they tried to run the offense through like Javonte and those guys. But Najee and Jalen Warren should see a shitload of work there with Russ under center. Is he given the job? No, but there ain't no fucking way Kenny Pickett is beating out Russell Wilson for the starting job. And listen, if he does, cool. That means maybe Kenny Pickett got better. But I think we know what Kenny Pickett is, and he ain't it. Kenny Pickett ain't it. So Russ goes over there. I guess that makes me feel a little bit better about Pickens and Deontay, but he's not the long-term answer, which is the problem because this team has good players all around, but they ain't getting younger, man. They ain't getting younger. And this window of like we need a real good quarterback is going to close very, very, very soon. So if you got Russ in like a super flex league, this was probably like best case scenario at this point because he will likely have a starting job, and who knows, maybe he has a bounce back and he has a job for 2, maybe 3 more years. So you got yourself like a high-ish medium floor QB2 going forward. Gardner Minshew goes to LV. He will be battling Aiden O'Connell for the time being. I think this is like a fallback plan for them. So it's like they signed Christian Wilkins, which was fucking phenomenal signing. If I could have chose anyone in free agency, I guess outside of Kirk Cousins, to get on the Falcons, it for sure would have been Christian Wilkins. He goes to Las Vegas. So this team kind of rebooted a little bit. They got some magic going on in LV. I think this was more of a fallback plan for them. So it's like, okay, if we don't end up being able to trade up to get one of the young quarterbacks, or like, you know, we love JJ McCarthy, he doesn't fall to us, we'll be okay with Gardner Minshew. And Minshew's been fine, right? Minshew will be better than Aiden O'Connell was for them last year. He'll be better than Jimmy G was for them last year, which is like the lowest bar of all time. It's just a bar on the floor that you have to step over. That's what Jimmy G, that's what Aiden O'Connell was. That's what Gardner Minshew will raise a little bit. So I feel relatively good about guys like Devontae Adams, about like Jacoby Myers. We saw last year, like Michael Pittman became a fucking target hog with Minshew under center in Indy. So I would expect similar numbers. I would expect similar target shares that we saw between like Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, where they both had their games. I think that's like a relatively good comparison where you can get them the ball. But I would still not write off Vegas being really, really aggressive in the draft to try to go get up one of these rookie quarterbacks. What else we got here? Jameis signs in Cleveland to be a backup. Tyrod with the Jets to be a backup. Sam Darnold goes to Minnesota. I just will never, ever, 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 ever understand the undying love for Sam Darnold. People act like he's been unfairly sentenced to be a backup. He was terrible in New York. He had like 3 good games in Carolina. This is a dude whose career yards per attempt, I think, is below 6. He has almost as many interceptions as he has touchdowns in his career. I think his touchdown percentage is like 3.4%. His touchdown rate. I'm like just not really sure what people, because this is what's going to happen. Sam Darnold like might win the starting job in Minnesota if they don't end up drafting someone at 11. And then he's going to have like 2 or 3. It's going to be the same thing that happened with Josh Dobbs. We're like, oh, this is cool because he'll have like 1 or 2 good games. As soon as he has a bad game, everyone's like, fuck, I forgot about the last 8 fucking years of sample size that we have of Sam Darnold. Idiots. So, Sam Darnold to Minnesota. This makes me a little bit nervous for the Vikings' weapons. Yeah, I saw someone tweet out like Justin Jefferson might not be a top 5 pick in redraft leagues right now. And I don't know if I can make a good argument against it. Because you look at the talent at wide receiver. If you look at like Christian McCaffrey, if you look at some of the up-and-coming running backs, Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold, you know, it feels like it's a purgatory where we've seen a lot of really, really, really talented receivers, and Jefferson's obviously in his own class, but, year after year after year, we clamor to these dudes like Terry and DJ Moore and all these guys are like, if only they can get a good quarterback, if only they can get some good quarterback play. And it just doesn't happen. And what happens is wide receivers with bad quarterback play, Garrett Wilson, etc., hit a level where they have high floors, right? They'll get 1,000, 1,100, maybe even 1,200 yards, but their touchdown numbers are typically in like the 4 to 6 range because the teams don't score a lot. So if they go into the year with Sam Darnold, I'm going to be a little bit cautious with Justin Jefferson in redraft. I'll just put it that way. Timestamp this shit right now. Timestamp it right now because we're going to the running backs. And this is where shit gets juicy. Saquon goes on Twitter and fights Tiki Barber after he signs a 3-year, $37 million deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. This was the ideal landing spot for him, right? Because DeAndre Swift is not there. We'll get to him in a second. He goes into obviously a workhorse role. I don't think Saquon is anywhere near finished. Do I think Saquon's lost a little bit of the steam he had when he came in as a rookie, put up 2,000 yards from scrimmage, 15 touchdowns? Yeah, I do. I don't think he's been the same player with all those injuries that he suffered in his mid-20s. He's 27 right now, I think. I think he's someone who's going to age fine. But he does not really have that explosive ability he had when he came in as a rookie where he was ripping off. Any given play can go for 50, 60, 70 yards. And I don't really think the Eagles need that or are looking for that. DeAndre Swift had a great fantasy year last year, and he was fine. Saquon's a better version of DeAndre Swift, where he's super athletic. He'll catch every pass thrown his way. Vision could be questionable at times, but it doesn't really matter because he's so damn athletic. The biggest thing here is obviously him going to an offense that gets on the goal line fucking 4 times a game. He went from probably the worst offensive line in the NFL in the New York Giants to a top 5 offensive line in the Philadelphia Eagles. They were number 3 in run blocking per PFF last year. And they lose Jason Kelce, obviously. And I kind of imagine maybe the front office kind of looks at this move and says, like, we lose Jason Kelce, and this is kind of a way of shielding that a little bit. You get a guy who, even if there's pressure into the backfield, can make that first guy miss. And he kind of negates the pressure that Jason Kelce or Jason Kelce's replacement will now probably let up into the backfield. So Saquon goes into Philly, and obviously the biggest concern, there's 2 concerns, is like they don't really throw the ball to their running backs that often, which you saw Saquon's value drop, right? From when that rookie year he had, when he had like 120 fucking targets or whatever with Eli Manning. Eli Manning was a statue. He's a fucking cone that just dumps the ball off to the running back. Daniel Jones came in, and Daniel Jones is much more of an athlete. Typically with running quarterbacks and athletic and mobile quarterbacks, you see the target numbers diminish for running backs, which matters a ton in fantasy fucking football. So I'm a little bit nervous about that, and obviously got the tush push, so his overall touchdown upside is probably capped, but he's still going to score 10 touchdowns this year, no doubt about it. He's behind a great offensive line and just an overwhelmingly good offense. The environment he's in can't be more different than what he was in last year. So Saquon, I still think he's got 90% of the juice he had when he came into the league for the most part. He is easily I haven't done my rankings for redraft. I haven't done my rankings for best ball. I'm going to start ripping off a bunch of best ball drafts on the channel soon, so make sure that you are signed up on Underdog. I want to go look at some ADPs while we're on here and see where these guys are getting drafted. Now, we're going to need to let a little time sink into this to see. I'll take questions in the chat afterwards, y'all, by the way, too. Saquon's up to RB8 right now. Okay, he's RB8, 21st overall, and I imagine he's going to keep moving up and up and up. He'll probably end up going as a top 15 pick. I wouldn't even be surprised if he was on that border of pick 12, 13, the 1-2 turn. So right now on Underdog, again, go sign up on Underdog Fantasy. They got best ball drafts. We're going to be ripping them off and doing a bunch of live streams with you guys in the drafts with us. If you're new to the platform, you could use code BDGE, and it'll double whatever you put down. So you put down $10, you'll be able to do 3 best ball drafts with us. But use our code, you'll have $20, which means you could do 6 drafts with us, all right? We're getting crispy out here. So Saquon's behind Achane, JT, Kyron Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, C-Mac in reverse order. So C-Mac right now is the number 1 overall pick in best ball drafts. Breece Hall is up at 6, Bijan at 7, Jahmyr Gibbs at 11, Kyren Williams at 14, JT at 15, 16, Achane at 18, Saquon at 21. So I would for sure take Saquon over Achane. I think you start to get into the argument of like Saquon, JT, Kyren Williams in that range. 10 to 15. 10 to 15 is probably the right spot for Saquon Barkley right now. Okay, so that's a massive move for him, obviously. Josh Jacobs, let's just bucket Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs together. So the Packers signed Josh Jacobs, and probably one of the more surprising moves in the free agency market so far. Josh Jacobs goes to Green Bay. A.J. Dillon is a free agent. They cut Aaron Jones, hella disrespectful. Aaron Jones ends up signing with Minnesota. So we have a bunch of swap action going on here. Now, Minnesota cut Alexander Mattison. So they were going into the year with Ty Chandler as their guy. Now it's obviously Aaron Jones. Now, I think they're probably looking at Aaron Jones and saying, like, let's try to recapture what we had with Dalvin Cook. Now, when Dalvin Cook left Minnesota, his worst year was easily his last year in Minnesota. I think everybody who watches ball at all could see that Dalvin Cook was on the decline. Someone had put the pan up way too fucking high on that man and fried his ass. He was not, I mean, we saw it in New York, obviously. One of the worst running backs in the NFL last year. Like, I don't know if I could think of a worse player in the NFL last year than Dalvin Cook on the Jets, realistically. Aaron Jones, however, had a huge week 1, then got hurt, and that plagued a lot of his season. But then we saw down the stretch. We saw the last few weeks of the regular season. We saw into the playoffs. Aaron Jones was a monster. Aaron Jones went fucking crazy. I still think Aaron Jones has juice, okay? He's obviously older. He's 29, 30 right now, so he is on that age range where we're like, okay, probably time to be weary of it. But I don't think this is like a Dalvin Cook situation where we're about to see him fall off the face of the earth. Now, right now, Aaron Jones on Underdog is going, where did I just fucking hide that? Where art thou? Aaron Jones is down at RB16, okay, 67th overall, so you're talking about the 606. I think that's about where he should be going. I think there's always risk going to a new team. You're an older back. I still like Aaron Jones, though. I still think he's going to be a really good player for the Minnesota Vikings, where I wasn't really convinced with that last year with Dalvin Cook going over to the New York Jets. Obviously with Breece Hall there, so it didn't really matter. But Josh Jacobs going to Green Bay is really interesting. I mean, they paid him to be the workhorse there. The contract is set up where he's really on like a 1-year deal. It says 3-year deal, but like almost all of his guaranteed money's in the first year. They can get off of it afterwards. I do think this team wants to have a workhorse. I do think Josh Jacobs sees a fuckload of work immediately. This is an offense that's on the uptick right now. So Josh Jacobs, I think the landing spot was really, really good given Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are both out of there. You got no competition there. So similar role to what he's been seeing in the last few years in Las Vegas, but now he's doing it in a better offense. So the concern with Josh Jacobs is like, is he actually a good running back still? I think he's like, he had the year 2 years ago where he was, one of, if not the best running back in the NFL. Every other year, in my opinion, he's been fine. He's been like, I think he was kind of like in that Joe Mixon range where people wanted to like him more than he was actually like good, right? Like he did cool things, whatever. He was nice to have on the team, but I don't think he ever really like excelled and impacted the game to a level where people put him in that category. Last year was his worst year for sure. I don't know if he was dealing with injuries, whatnot. Obviously, the offense was in fucking shambles. But all of his numbers, yards after contact per attempt, just like missed tackles forced per attempt, all that kind of stuff was the lowest of his career. So Josh Jacobs is coming off of a bad year. So I'm going to be hesitant to like get back into him. He's the RB13 right now. But you're seeing like at the RB13, he is all the way down at pick 55. So he's on the borderline of being an RB1. However, you don't actually have to draft your RB1 really until the 5th, 6th round. That is what these early drafts are saying as it holds right now. So I think, again, that's probably around the right spot. I think if I can get Josh Jacobs in the 5th round, easily doing that. That's a good value. I think he's going to push up to the 4th. I think he's worth probably drafting at the back of the 3rd, depending on what else they do in the running back market. But no Dillon, no Jones. It's just him back there, man. It's just that man's back there. So for Dynasty, this was a good landing spot for him, but you got to get off of Josh Jacobs, to be honest with you, if you can. If someone offers you something for Jacobs right now, he's on the decline, man. It's very obvious to see coming. He's getting to that age where it's like you want to start getting rid of these running backs. That's what most of these running backs do. So Jacobs goes to Green Bay. Jones goes to Minnesota. If I'm picking one or the other straight up, I'm going to take Josh Jacobs just because I feel more secure with his role, feel more secure with his youth. I feel more secure with his team and his offense as well right now. But still like Aaron Jones. Now, let's talk about the most recent deal. We had Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens, 2 years, $16 million. This is going to be a scary fucking offense, man. Whoo! Derrick Henry, I mean, he's not the Derrick Henry of old, but he's still Derrick Henry, you know? He still put up stats last year. They had a miserable offensive line. They had a miserable offense. He was giving a lot of work to Tyjae Spears. I like Derrick Henry a lot. I would probably very comfortably draft him as a relatively early pick. The amount of goal line opportunities he's going to get in Baltimore. Think about like Gus Edwards, how fucking often that dude was scoring last year. Let me see this. If you look at if you just look historically at like the older veterans who have been able to score number of touchdowns, oh my God, Gus Edwards had 13 touchdowns last year. If you are behind Lamar Jackson, you're putting up fanatical numbers. I go back to fucking Mark Ingram back in what, 2019 was it? 2019, he had 10 rushing touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns. In between there, every running back just has insane efficiency numbers. Derrick Henry, just put him on the goal line. It's like, all right, cool. We don't have to wait for Lamar Jackson to get hurt. We don't need him to take hits. We got Derrick Henry back there. Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell are going to be. I need that like that. Remember that picture where Derrick Henry was right next to Deion Lewis, and they took that picture together at practice, where Derrick Henry was quite literally 2 times as big as Deion Lewis. We need a new one of that. We need an updated Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell, mini-me, Oompa Loompa type picture. Those two are going to be a fun fucking combo to have in that backfield together. It's a good deal for the Ravens. Great landing spot for Derrick Henry, obviously. It's very much going to get his career back going again, of course. He could have landed in a few different spots. Like he could have went to Houston. It would have been a good landing spot. But the Ravens, I think, is fucking perfect there. So Derrick Henry, huge winner. Tony Pollard goes to Tennessee. 3 years, $24 million. Before last year, Tony Pollard was a huge dynasty sell for me because he was already 26. And it's exactly what I said was like when you're at that age, if you have even like a questionable year, you're not getting a real locked in long-term contract. 3 years, 24. That's the same amount that DeAndre Swift got. It's not a ton more than like Devin Singletary got. It's like a mid-tier running back contract, and they like Tyjae Spears a lot there. So I'm not really sure what this offense is going to turn into. It's one that now has kind of lost their identity without Derrick Henry. So I'm not high on Tony Pollard whatsoever. If Derrick Henry couldn't be the Derrick Henry of old, I don't have a lot of faith in Tony Pollard, who was pretty fucking miserable last year. So Pollard will get drafted higher than Tyjae Spears will most likely, but I'm not comfortable with that. Right now, Tyjae Spears is actually the RB 18 off the board, 73rd overall, where Tony Pollard's all the way down. Oh, wait, my line? Where is he? Where the fuck is Pollard? Pollard's RB. Okay, they're actually right near each other. Pollard's the RB 21 right now at pick 78. So they were 5 picks apart. And I think what's going to happen is Tony Pollard is going to start going above Tyjae Spears, and then everyone's going to be like, I like Tyjae Spears better. And then I think they're going to go like next to each other, but I think ultimately the community will decide that Tyjae Spears is the better, younger. Tyjae Spears is pretty much Tony Pollard 5 years ago, where everyone's like, we just want this guy to get more chances. We just want this guy to get his opportunity, because when he does get his opportunity, he's fucking electric. And that's kind of where we're sitting with Tyjae Spears. And that's where we were with Aaron Jones 5 years ago, right? I want to shout out to fucking Aaron Jones, by the way. Just been one of the funnest, most enjoyable players in the NFL over the last like 8 years. He's one of those few dudes that like really did come in, got limited work, and then everyone clamored for him to get more work because they knew how good he would be with it, and actually pulled through on that shit. I love Aaron Jones. One of my favorite players all time in the NFL. Glad to see he landed in Minnesota. Glad he's going to get some revenge games out there in Green Bay. Can't believe they cut his ass. What is that? What are we doing out here, Green Bay? We got Tony P to Tennessee. Yeah, so I'm kind of off Tony P altogether. I was not really on him last year, and the fact that he disappointed tells me like I'm again. They show you who they are. They showed you who they are. Okay. Let's go to Austin Ekeler in Washington. This is bad. This is not good. Because everyone else, right? Saquon to Philly, Jacobs to Green Bay, Henry to Baltimore, even Pollard to Tennessee. Like, they all have a chance to be like the guy. They have a chance to claim a 3-down workload. There's just no chance that happens with Ekeler anymore. He is now stepping into that 3rd down pass catching, J.D. McKissick type role, Antonio Gibson type role. Clearly, 2 years, $11 million. It's Brian Robinson's. It's Brian Robinson's early down work. It's Brian Robinson's goal line work. Ekeler might catch 4, 5, 6 passes a game, depending on who the quarterback is there, but not great. I think he's a fine RB3 in PPR leagues. I think this will kind of extend his career a little bit. He'll become like a role-ish player. I will say, there's still something in the back of my mind. There's still something chirping at me back there that's like, Ekeler, did he get an unfair break last year? He had a huge week 1, monster week 1, then he suffers a high ankle sprain, and he's just pretty much atrocious for the rest of the year. He did have a spurt, though, from weeks like 10 to 12, I want to say. It was 3 weeks in a row where he scored over 20 PPR fantasy points. So he had a little bit of a glimpse of like, okay, maybe Eckler's back a little bit. Again, he's getting old, so it's hard not to just lean that way. But I do wonder whether or not the high ankle sprain really fucked him last year, because we saw what it did to Saquon back in the day, and then he was a different player the next year. I don't know if we've seen all the juice get squeezed out of Ekeler. I don't. I'm not high on him, obviously. It's a shitty situation. He's going to be a role player out here in Washington. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's really fantasy relevant at some point or another next year. Which moves us to DeAndre Swift, who will definitely be fantasy relevant at some point next year because they will have Caleb Williams under center. And they signed him to a 3-year, $24 million deal. I don't love this signing for them. I feel like they put together a great tandem of backfield dudes last year between Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman and Roschon Johnson. Now, maybe they were looking for a little bit more juice, right? Because none of those guys really have an explosive factor to them. I feel like you didn't need to go out and spend $25 million on DeAndre Swift for that. I feel like you could have gotten a running back in day 3, maybe late round 3, day 4 or something that has a little bit of juice to him. They get Swift, and I guess he's going to be the starter off the rip. And you could be in worse spots. Their offense is obviously, on the come up here. And he's coming off a good year in Philly. He's still relatively young. But Swift, I think we know who he is at this point, where he is, again, I was going to comp him to Miles Sanders and also say the situation is kind of similar to Miles Sanders, where Sanders got the bag last year, and you just assume he's going to be the workhorse. But Sanders was always like a boomer bust runner. Super athletic. Can make explosive plays. Vision is super questionable. Sometimes doesn't hit the right holes. DeAndre Swift is a clear fucking example of that. And I wonder, depending on how much depth they have in Chicago, if Swift could possibly be on the Miles Sanders trajectory, where, the fall off to Miles Sanders was legendary. I'd like to think I played a part in that in a bad way. But I don't think Swift will be there necessarily. I do think, depending on what their depth chart looks like, I don't really know who's a free. Obviously, Roschon's on his rookie deal. Khalil Herbert and Deonta Foreman had to have been on a 1-year deal also, right? So signed Swift. They still got Khalil Herbert. Okay, Roschon Johnson. So I just don't really see a world where Swift is a 3-down back there. Not with Khalil and Roschon Johnson both on the roster still. So I don't love that landing spot for him. I don't love the move for the Chicago Bears. We still got J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Deonta Foreman, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as free agents. We got Devin Singletary going over to the New York Giants, 3 years, $16.5 million. I don't hate that landing price, that landing spot, because they don't really have anything else on the roster. I do think this probably signals that they go get a rookie running back, though. I would love for it to be Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, coming off the torn ACL, but give him a year to sit behind Devin and then let him take that role over. So Devin Singletary could be sneaky good back there. Gus Edwards goes to the Chargers. They obviously lose Austin Ekeler. Gus Edwards is like, I don't know, what the fuck is the difference between Gus Edwards and Josh Kelly at this point? Like, we haven't seen Gus Edwards in a non-Baltimore Ravens offense, okay? Is he all of a sudden going to be this, like, awesome back? Probably not. 2 years, $6.5 million. They have to address that in the draft, right? One of these years they're going to hit on a running back. Zach Moss goes to Cincy, which actually brings us back to Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon gets apparently cut, but not cut, because then he gets traded to Houston. Now, there are a lot of rumors linking a lot of running backs to Houston. They obviously wanted to upgrade their backfield a little bit because Damon Pierce pretty much died last year. Devin Singletary is now in New York. So you had Saquon linked to him. You got Derrick linked to him, the king. And now you have Joe Mixon traded to them. Now, Joe Mixon is not great at football. I don't really know how else to put it. He's getting older. He's not explosive. He doesn't make guys miss. But he's in a good landing spot. And, you know, I'm going to be honest. If I'm a Houston fan, I actually kind of hate this because they already did not put the ball in C.J. Stroud's hands enough. Like, they were a team that ran the ball on first down at a disgustingly high percentage. They just didn't need to do it. And it actually stifled their offense a little bit. Like, there's no reason to have Devin Singletary in there and be like, yep, we're going to run the ball on first down, top 5 percentage in the NFL. I kind of feel like now that they got Mixon, they're going to buy into the idea that that's an even better idea this year. So I think this might be like subtraction by addition. I'm a little bit nervous for that. As it relates to like fantasy, they have Pierce there, obviously. I don't know. Do they have a pass catching back there? Am I missing someone? J.J. Taylor? No, not really. Okay, so Mixon might step in and be workhorse-ish, depending on what Dameon Pierce does this offseason. I'm having trouble buying into it, though. He could have a similar role that he did in Houston to Cincinnati, where he's just not a great running back, but he'll get a ton of scoring opportunities just because the offense is good, and that will translate into fantasy points, of course. So I guess he's okay, but like I'm not drafting him with any hopes of getting any real upside here. Let's see where he's going right now. Joe Mixon is RB27 off the board, pick 91. He's right behind Brian Robinson. He is right behind James Conner. He's right behind Najee Harris. He's in front of Warren, Mostert, Javonte Williams. Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit higher than that. I mean, he's picked 91, so you're talking about like an 8th round pick. I'd be completely fine with mixing all the way down there. I don't see a ton of upside with him though. Zach Moss replaces him in Cincy. This is a huge win for Chase Brown, obviously. Moss will probably play some early downs. Moss will probably, thump in the goal line, whatnot, but this is definitely a sign that they're ready to give Chase Brown a lot more work. So Chase Brown could end up being like the Tony Pollard, the Austin Ekeler earlier on in his career, the Aaron Jones early on in his career. Chase Brown's in a really fucking good spot. So if you did not go out and try to grab him, one of my very, very, very first Dynasty videos I made on the channel. Again, if you're here from the regular fantasy channel, we're also streaming on the Dynasty Fantasy Football channel. Link down below. All of our fantasy content from now through like June, July is going to be up on the Dynasty channel. And if you play in leagues, boom, bang, boom, we got you. If you do not, we're also opening up Dynasty leagues for you guys. So go subscribe over there. We talking Zach Moss. We talking Chase Brown. I said Chase Brown was one of the best buy candidates this offseason, and now I feel even better about that. Antonio Gibson, I could feel really good about saying he is the opposite of a buy candidate this offseason. He goes to New England, 3 years, $11 million. It's annoying for Ramondre. I don't know what his role is going to be. I think he's proven that he's a pretty fucking shitty runner. I think he's proven to be a pretty shitty runner in the NFL, a good pass catcher, but that's kind of like Ramondre Stevenson is pretty much Antonio Gibson, but a better runner, So we'll see. I think Zeke is still there for another year too, so I don't really know where he fits in, to be honest. It kind of just feels like a depth move, I guess. All right, let's move over to the wide receivers. Has anything happened? Has anything happened on Twitter or in free agency since I started streaming here. I don't know. You guys tell me. We got T. Higgins, franchise tagged. Looks like he's probably going to get moved. Michael Pittman, re-signed with Indy. Love that move for him. Mike Evans, re-signed with Tampa Bay. We still have Marquise Brown and Calvin Ridley as free agents. We have Gabe Davis, who signed a 3-year, $39 million deal with Jacksonville. I think it's an interesting move because it gives them a type of player that they didn't really have. They didn't really have a legitimate deep threat, a dude who sucks at everything except for going deep, right? Ridley should have been a dude who's more of like a flanker, moving around, let him operate with space. Christian Kirk, also slot guy, inside, outside. Zay Jones is probably out now. I will say, I don't necessarily see Gabe Davis going to Jacksonville on a 3-year, $39 million deal, meaning Calvin Ridley's out of Jacksonville. That was everybody's first impression. I don't think that's the case. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Calvin Ridley, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up back in Jacksonville. I can't imagine they go into next year with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk coming off a major injury as their like 1-2 targets with Evan Ingram. What this signal to me more so was like, I saw a lot of mock drafts that were saying, Jacksonville maybe goes with a guy like Brian Thomas at 17 overall. And Gabe Davis is a shit version of Brian Thomas, but maybe what that allows them to do is re-sign Calvin Ridley and then use that 17th overall pick on an offensive lineman in a really strong O-lineman class, or, a cornerback or someone for the secondary, whatever the case may be. That's kind of what I saw this deal more likely looking at, as a little bit of depth for a receiver that does something different than what they have in the class. I'm not drafting Gabe Davis. I got no fucking interest in Gabe Davis. I have zero interest in that man. I got more interested in fucking, what is this? I have more interest in drinking diarrhea flavored tea than I do drafting Gabe Davis. But I tell you who I do have interest in, and that's Darnell Mooney going to the Falcons. Love that move for us. Don't really care for it for fantasy, to be honest with you, but love Darnell Mooney as a player, as like a third, fourth piece in our offense. 3 years, $39 million. So he gets the same deal that Gabe Davis gets. I love that for us. Odell still a free agent. Tyler Boyd still a free agent. Curtis Samuel still a free agent. Chark, Michael Thomas, Josh Reynolds, all these guys still a free agent. So a lot of receivers with chips that still need to be figured out. Gabe Davis got to be approaching cone status. Gabe Davis invented the cone. Gabe Davis is the OG cone. Been calling him Cone Davis for years. Tight ends, we got Schultz re-signing with Houston, Hunter Henry re-signing with New England, Noah Fant re-signing with Seattle, Colby Parkinson goes to L.A., the Rams. Gesicki did just sign with Cincinnati. I don't think that really that they've just been trying to fucking recycle athletic but bad at football tight ends for a minute now. Irv Smith goes to Kansas City, same type of player. Jonnu Smith goes to Miami, which kind of pisses me the fuck off because he's probably going to be really good in Miami. And he was really good for Atlanta last year. I get it. He was like Arthur Smith's little pet. He was like his little pet monkey. Every time he wanted to run a fun, funky little play was Jonnu Smith. But guess what? It fucking worked. Having him as our tight end too, or having him as like our sixth playmaker on offense, I was a fan. I think we should have re-signed him. Fucking idiot. Yeah, and those are really like the fantasy relevant type of signings. Obviously, there's a bunch of linemen going all over the place. Like Carolina got 2 interior offensive linemen. They need to do that for Bryce Young's development. We got these centers and these guards getting crazy contracts. I think you're just seeing that as more of a product of like what the NFL is becoming, where the defense is really getting those like edge players to line up one-on-one with the tackles, and where they were like the main points of pressure. You're seeing like insane interior linemen play on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's like the Chris Jones or Aaron Donalds, or like those types of guys are wrecking games. So their quickest point, the quickest point for the D-line to the quarterback is right up the middle, right? Putting pressure in the middle makes these quarterbacks kind of roll out. Whereas like defensive ends come in from the sides, step up into the pocket as long as there's no pressure up there. So you're seeing like an emphasis right now on the guard and center spot being a little bit more of a high priority pick or free agency mark for these offenses. So glad they got the bag. Anyone else cool on the move? Yeah, like I said, Christian Wilkins going to Las Vegas was such a good fucking signing for them. Darnell Hunter still available. Please God, go to Atlanta. Oh, what else we got going on? I think that's really all the free agents. No, was there any other big ones that I missed? Let's hop into the chat. How we doing? Greetings. Are we on Twitch? No, we are not on Twitch. We're just on YouTube. I should go on to Twitch though, probably. Twitch always just feels weird. It's just like I never know what's going on over there. I feel like I just showed up to a party that I'm not supposed to be at. Do some Q&A, coward. I have 5 important picks and go fade me coming up. I'm here. Ask me. What the fuck do you want? Ask me, ho. What does Ekeler mean for Brian Robinson? Literally traded him for him over the weekend. Yeah, like I think Austin Ekeler pretty much fits right into that Antonio Gibson role. They clearly had enough of Gibson, which I don't blame them, because imagine being on a football team with Antonio Gibson for 3-4 years. You probably have enough of him too. The guy's a terrible runner, but Ekeler will still catch balls. Antonio Gibson was able to catch balls. So I think it's going to be a similar split to what we saw last year. Gibson was hurt a little bit, so Brian Robinson got some games where he was where he became the workhorse, but that really won't happen with Ekeler in town, obviously. How do we feel about Zamir White now that Josh Jacobs is out? That's a good question. Zamir White is still, in my opinion, a runway runner where, like, I don't think he's capable of being a 3-down back. He doesn't have the upside that Josh Jacobs had. I would be really surprised if they don't go out and get a running back in the draft this year too. But if not, I mean, Zamir White feels like a nice little high floor RB2, RB3. So, if you have Zamir White, for sure, you feel good about that, because couldn't have gotten any better. Like, Josh Jacobs just could have been resigned for a 1 or 2 year deal, but now it opens up for him. And he looked good down the stretch last year, but I still think he lacks the elusiveness. I think he lacks the 3-down ability to, like, really be a big-time playmaker in the league. How's your mother? She's great. I'm going to dinner with her on Thursday night. I haven't seen her in a while, but I appreciate you asking. Big Lisa's doing great things. You give your thoughts on King Henry yet? Yeah, so I've gone through pretty much every player in free agency already. Hopefully somebody timestamped the players as I was going through them. If you're watching it live, I will put the timestamps on afterwards. If someone sends them to me, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, you're just going to have to scroll through. I apologize. Do you know how to roller skate? I don't know. I feel like I'm coordinated enough that I should be able to fucking rock them. Like, I couldn't tell you the last time I roller skated. Is the difference between roller skates and roller blades, is it like pancakes or flapjacks? Like, I have a friend that believes, like, anytime it's more than 3 pancakes, it becomes flapjacks, or maybe it's vice versa. So our roller blades are the ones where it's like 4 in a row, right? They're like when you ask for like an eye in beer pong, but then roller skates are when there's like 4, right? Like 4-wheel drive type shits. Those, I feel like, in what situation are you ever on roller skates? Roller blades, I understand, because people be going around Central Park like fucking whipping them. Roller skates, when do people ever use those? What do you think on the Fields situation? Okay, so Fields, again, like, I just think the market was way lower on him. From what I've heard, a lot of teams are kind of spooked on his personality too, apparently. I don't really know what that means, but that's what I've heard from a source. And the thing with him is, like, we just saw, okay, so that draft class, right? It was T-Law, it was Mac Jones, it was Trey Lance, it was Justin Fields. Like, we saw Trey Lance go for a 4. We just saw Mac Jones go for a 6. Justin Fields, sure, has had the most success, I would say. I would even say, like, maybe he hasn't had that much more success than Mac Jones, but he's had the most success most recently. So everybody thinks that he should be worth this, like, high-end pick. He'll never go for a first. I was weary that he would go for a second. I thought maybe someone would get desperate, but at this point, you're looking at teams that, like, had opening quarterback slots, or at least opening quarterback competitions, and they made their move, right? Like Minnesota, Sam Darnold, Las Vegas, Gardner Minshew, Atlanta, Kirk Cousins, Pittsburgh, Russell Wilson. Like, you got Denver there. Denver, I think, is a team definitely to still watch at, but they could try to grab a quarterback in the draft. Most teams don't go out and sign 2 QBs in an offseason. So I don't think you'll see any of those teams like the Gardner and the Sam Darnold teams go for a guy like Fields. So what I think realistically is happening is the NFL is just way lower on Justin Fields than like fantasy players are. So at this point, Fields feels like maybe they'll get a third out of him. I also wouldn't be surprised. I was listening to the Athletic podcast this morning, and they were saying like his best bet might be to go to a team like Philly or Baltimore and back up a dude that has a similar play style to him. And I didn't think that was that bad of an opinion. I would like to see Justin Fields get another shot to be the starter, but legitimately, I can't really name like 3 teams off the top of my head that still have starting jobs or starting competition open that didn't already address the quarterback position this offseason. So like, it's not looking good for him. If I had to put my money on something, I think he goes somewhere for a much lower pick than the public thinks he's worth, and not a good situation. So it's not great right now if you own him in Dynasty. Can you give Dynasty value for Kirk now that he is in Atlanta? Yeah, I mean, listen, this was best case scenario because there was a chance that like coming off an Achilles, you're 35, 36, the dude hangs it up. Instead, he gets a 4-year deal where the way it's structured is he will 1,000% be there for at least 2 years. And then the 3rd year, very likely will still be there. But we've also seen over the last couple of years these instances where these older veteran quarterbacks, we talk about Carson Wentz, we talk about Russell Wilson, where teams are just willing to eat the dead cap regardless of how big it is. I think his cap hit against the Falcons in the 3rd year would be like $57 million. If they cut him, his dead cap would still be like $25 million. But if he's playing poorly, then maybe they just decide to go that route. Going into the 4th year would be his reasonable option financially to get him cut. So you're talking about extending his lifeline for another 2 minimum, probably 3 years in a really, really like well-rounded offense with a lot of good weapons. So this was for sure best case scenario for Kirk Cousins, no doubt about it. So Kirk for me is someone that like he might be, like he's what is like 5-6 years older than Jared Goff. Over the next 3-4 years, Jared Goff probably the guy in Detroit, but like, are we super confident that he's in the league for another 7-8 years? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but like, I don't know. Over the next 3-4 years, who's going to score more fantasy points? I don't know if I'd confidently say it's Jared Goff over Kirk. So he's not going to be a guy I'm going out of my skis for because again, there's still fucking red flags. You're still old. You're still dealing with a fucking Achilles tear. This could go south quick. The Falcons going to Falcon. The Falcons are going to Falcon at the end of the day. Dealt with this. I've gotten excited about things before, and it never fucking works. So trying to stay optimistic, but it's getting harder and harder and harder. That's what she said. Blue Chew, promo code BDGE. So Kirk, for me, probably in that like 15 to 18 range in Dynasty quarterback value. Because I think once you get to 15, you're still looking at good younger dudes. Like you still got like the Brock Purdy's there. And then once you get to like 18, 19, you're looking at maybe 1-year guys like Matt Stafford, maybe guys like Derek Carr, where I'm like, I probably want Kirk over those guys. So I just traded Jacobs for plus a 25 third for Saquon and Dynasty. Yes, huge fucking dub. Guts out here getting offered. This is a real deal that got on the table for Gut. He has Saquon. He got offered the 105, the 108, and the 201 in this year's draft class. And he's sitting on that deal somehow. Get fucking rid of him if you can. I'm talking about Saquon if you got a deal like that. But I like this deal for Saquon. I would easily take Saquon over Jacobs Dynasty rest of season or rest of career. Trade Mike Evans and Monty for pick 1-5 and 2-5. Thoughts, rebuild mode, PPR. Yeah, I'm super okay with that. At the 1-5, you're likely going to get Malik Neighbors, Malik Neighbors is going to be the GOAT. Malik Neighbors is going to be second team All-Pro as a rookie. I'm fine with that move. The 1-5 is so valuable. Assuming it's super flex, because if it's not super flex, then you're going to get the 5th best wide receiver or some shit there. And I'd probably still do it, honestly, just because Mike Evans is fucking old. But he the contract, and he's going to be playing a couple more years. If this is super flex, you for sure go with the picks there. Nick, any predictions on what the Bengals got back from the Texans in the Mixon trade? My guess is like a 5th-round pick. Yeah, it definitely won't be anything more than that. Let's see if we got any news. I would imagine they restructured his contract. I could also see it being something where it's like a pick swap. You know, like they got Joe Mixon and the 7th for the 6th or the 5th or something like that. I would be shocked if it was higher than a 5th. There's just no way. Probably a 6th or a 7th or some shit. Oh, GOAT. I sent you timestamps in the Big Dog Discord chat. You're the GOAT for that. Are you surprised with the running back market? Top running backs seeking $10 million but settling for just under that. My surprise? No, I think the market has kind of settled into what it is over the last couple of years, and most of the backs in this market don't have enough leverage because it's not a young market right now. Like you think about all the guys that signed. You have Saquon, 27, Ekeler, 29, 30, Derrick Henry, 29, 30, Jacobs getting to 27, I want to say. Like these are not guys fresh off their rookie contract either. You know what I'm saying? Like these are guys who had their rookie contract, got their 2nd contract, and now they're looking for the next one. So if these were guys fresh off their rookie contract, I would be maybe a little bit more surprised. But you got to understand that while this class, this free agent class, is full of like really headline worthy names, they're still old. You're. I'm taking your Falcons card. Super Bowl goes through ATL. Agreed, motherfucker. Can I get a Hank? 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 Could never, Matt. You could never rattle me, you dumb bitch. What else is going on? Jahmyr Gibbs with the 107, Joe Mixon and the 203. Wait, so Jahmyr Gibbs, 107, Joe Mixon, 203. Even at this price, I still think I probably take the Gibbs side. Like Mixon falls into that category. Any older running back in like a timeshare has very little value to me in Dynasty. And then I look at the 107, where for me that's kind of a tier break, depending on where JJ McCarthy goes. But you look at the top 7 rookie picks, and it's probably going to be in this capacity, but whatever order you want to put them in. The top 3 quarterbacks. So you got Caleb, you got Drake May, you got Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers. Those are like the 7, right? And then maybe we have a sneaky wide receiver going like the top 12. Maybe JJ McCarthy goes top 10. So I kind of look at those 7 as like a tier break, but I'm also thinking that the problem with like putting up Brock Bowers into that tier where he might be fucking incredible, it's still so hard to move tight ends in Dynasty. Like no matter how good they are, they still just don't get you a lot of push. They don't get you a lot of trade value, no matter how good they actually are for your teams. I don't think anyone notices like they're just at the bottom of the roster, at the bottom of the starting lineup, and no one really notices them like winning games for you, you know? So it's like I still take Gibbs here, I think. How many fantasy leagues do you play in yearly? To be honest with you, not a lot. I used to play in like a fuckload when I was younger, but now I try to keep it super minimal. I'm in like three Dynasty leagues. I played in 3 redraft leagues last year, I want to say. Speaking of Austin Ekeler, I played in a league with Austin Ekeler last year. I won that sheesh, and he sent me this big-ass trophy that was just broken in the box, but now it's background fucking laundry. Where are we at in the intern hiring process? We had Tony interviewed like 4 people on Friday, I think. I think we have an offer out to somebody. I got to ask Tony. He's kind of running that, to be honest. What's the value for Gus in Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts? If I put Gus into rookie drafts right now, he would be like the 312, maybe like the 404. He's got like no value. Who do my Chargers get at 5? I think the Chargers could go. I would love to see Malik Neighbors there. I think that would be fucking beautiful. Herbert throwing him the ball. I could see them going tackle though. I could for sure see them going tackle. I think offensive side of the ball. I hope they don't take Dallas Turner or something though. If they get rid of Khalil Mack and or Joey Bosa and then feel like they need to get more pressure on the edge, maybe they do something surprising. Maybe they're the first surprising team to go defense there. But I don't know. I've seen a lot of Brock mock to them. I don't know if I really buy into that, but I could see a wide receiver or tackle. Dub. Hank. Any way you would release the BDG font so I can make trivias with it to send in the Discord. So we have 3 fonts. I want to say 2 of them are free. Like you might just be able to find them and download them. We have Don Jose. Don Jose is one of them. We have Barlow. And then we have Barlow like regular. And then like 4 or 5 offshoots of it. And Barlow condensed. And then we have Flexible, which is the one that's like tall and skinny. Hi. All right. I got a call in a little bit. Is it at 2 or 2:30? 2:30. All right. We got a little bit of time. I'm probably going to duck out here, though. I'm probably going to get rid of y'all. Thank you guys for hanging out. And again, if you are not subscribed to the Dynasty channel, that is where almost all future content for the next couple months, NFL draft coverage, rookie coverage, is going to be. So go subscribe over there. Link is down below. I will throw timestamps in here as soon as I can afterwards. I think someone sent them to me. So thank you for that, whoever that fucking icon was. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. I love you and hate you. Hank.